Well, pretty much when we first started, there were two projects really. One was to create a show car, a piece that communicated the core essence of the box and what the box was going to promise to the market. At the same time, parallel to that path, we were also exploring the final design of the box. And of course, with that comes a lot of engineering, a lot of requirements. I looked at a lot of very industrial type architecture, such as nuclear power plants, machines that actually do atom crashing. A lot of those designs came into the creation of the Chrome X. We wanted a trophy, something that says, hey, look at this cool thing we're gonna build. The Chrome X was the original spirit of the Xbox. When we start working on the design of the box, we really start with the basic concept of no idea is a bad idea. Went to the copy room, got bundles of 500 sheets of paper, probably 4 or 5 bundles of it. So imagine thousands of sheets of paper, black pen, and a Microsoft proprietary stamp, and lots of food, lots of drinks. We took a lot of magazines. We bought over $1,000 worth of magazines. Cut out what we believe to be a trend, the trend of a snapshot of that day, and then place it against a matrix that eventually will be measurements for everything design that we do for Xbox. In this case, it was a matrix between intelligent and whimsical, and on the other axis is engineered versus sensual. We basically took what we learned from over 5,000 gamers. It really helped us just focus really quickly down to the final design that it needed to be. When you think about a game console, where it lives in your home, it lives in the center of your living room, on the floor. Why is that? We had a usability expert that took us into many gamers' homes around the world. You go into somebody's home, instantly look at and jot down notes as to where does it sit? Where does a game console sit? Does it sit underneath the TV, on the left or right, on top of? That helps us get a lot of really, really kind of non-influence data. We took measured distance between a television to most gamers' posture, where they sit when they play games. It's actually more than 6 feet, which is a traditional game console cord length. It actually is about 9 feet, 10 feet or so. So from that, we derived 3 meters, which is about 9 and a little more than 9 feet of cable for our controller, which really would increase the user experience. Foam was a luxury. Foam was something that we absolutely wanted to communicate the core brand value and the brand promise that we have to the customer, which is the ultimate gaming experience. And how do you communicate that through form on the outside? It's a balance that I had to play.
And at the same time, we're really taking a no-holds-barred approach to building the console. We wanted to make no compromises at any step of the design. So when it came time to make a decision, do we spend the extra money and do we include the extra height and weight of a hard drive, we said, what's the right thing for gamers? And the gaming experience is going to be better with a hard drive in every box, so we made that decision to include it. And then we look back to the design group to make sure that that's all being pulled together in the most elegant package that's the simplest for users to get access to all of that power.
In a lot of ways, I had to mimic the language of the box, but yet the box is a very square thing. So how do you translate that? How do you translate this energy that's around this jewel into the shape that looks like it's just... We actually had users in the lab in which we give it to them, they touch it, they go, oh no, this is not high enough, or this is getting in the way. So I'll go, I or somebody else will go down to the shop, shave it off with a piece of sandpaper, come back and say, what do you think about this now? And then they're saying, yeah, that's feeling better, but now this is cutting my hand. So you bring it back again. So there's a lot of back and forth process in which it's almost like a bar of soap, right? In lots of ways. It's the more you shape it, the more comfortable it gets.
We took a lot of Horace's aesthetic and human factor design and took that to game developers and said, look, what kind of things do you just want to go crazy on and do in your games, and what kind of controller do you need to be able to work with those games? So they're going to be building games with much more advanced character movement and control. So they needed things like 6 buttons on every single controller. A lot of games wanted to be able to count on advanced vibration. So we went ahead and made sure that every single Xbox controller had advanced vibration capabilities, just because it gives a more real, more immersive gaming experience to every single person that plays a game on Xbox.
The true story behind why Xbox is green is because I always carry a marker with me, and I happened to have a green marker in my pocket on the day that I was sketching, and I didn't have any other colors. Even my boss came in and said, "Horace, you gotta see more than just green. You can't just sketch everything in green." Next thing you know, we took it to game developers, showed them controllers, showed them box, and you know, these sketches that I had, and next thing you know, Xbox became green. When a group of us got together, sat down, and talked about what the Dash can be and cannot be, we had the ideas of, you know, this being an ecosystem in a lot of ways. That once you're in it, you're very familiar where you're going, but yet you never get lost. And also having a sense of this kind of, you know, we always talked about Xbox having a certain kind of secret sauce. What would it be if you dive into the secret sauce and seeing the different, you know, different parts of it and different molecules of it? That's a lot of it that came out of that. I think the design actually resonate that quite a bit.
It's dripping with the secret sauce, there's no doubt about it. You're really seeing a reflection of what we think is possible with the box in pretty much every aspect of the Dash's design, right? We know that we wanted to make it 3D, we wanted to have a look of complexity but an ease of navigation to it. We knew that we wanted to have a series of animations in it, all of which are very smooth and fluid and guide you through the experience. There was a lot we could do that was beyond what people think of as traditional. Game soundtracks, custom soundtracks, are probably one of the best examples of that. It gives us a great opportunity to allow gamers to put an audio CD into the drive, pick the tracks that they want as part of their custom soundtrack, actually rip that soundtrack to the hard drive, and when they play games, if a game supports custom soundtracks, in the game they'll just say which of their custom soundtracks they want to use, and that music will be playing in the background of the game, which is pretty cool. I definitely think it's about power, and the most important aspect of that power to me is when people buy an Xbox, they take it into their living room and turn the box on, and they're amazed. They can't believe what they're seeing. They didn't think it was possible. They play the game for a few hours and they start calling friends and they're gonna say, "You aren't gonna believe what I just did on this Xbox in my living room."
Well, gaming is an escape. It's fantasy. It's like going to the movies, it's shutting the lights out, being able to focus on something, having a story told to them. Well, except this is that times 10.
That's what it's really all about.
I am Seamus Blackley, and I'm the guy who has to figure out how to convince everybody to buy an Xbox. I get fired if Xbox games suck. Well, I was actually the guy who wrote the first Xbox memo, so I've been on the Xbox team longer than anyone else. I was working in the DirectX group. We were trying to think of ways to make gaming on Windows better, and the ultimate example of ease of gaming is a game console. It came together kind of like an illegal poker game. A bunch of guys who just like to hang out together realized that it was a really good idea. In the current environment, I don't think any company besides Microsoft could really compete with Nintendo or compete with Sony. The idea of getting into this arena as a software company, not as a hardware company, not as kind of a toy company, is exciting because it means that the rules can really change for the way that the game industry works. And so I think when we thought about Xbox, at the very beginning, we really thought that we could create an agent of change, that we could create a vehicle that would usher in this new age of video gaming that everybody likes to pontificate about, but in a very real way. The toughest thing about Xbox was not hardware, software technology at all. The technology is easy. The toughest thing about Xbox was getting Microsoft to understand that the game business is an entertainment business. It's not a technology business, and it's not a software business. My favorite quote is, never confuse game development with software development. There's software involved, right? But that's not actually what you're doing. When you think of Xbox, think of it fundamentally as as an asymmetric multiprocessor environment. Think of it as kind of a band. It's like a rock band. You got your drummer and your lead guitar player and your rhythm guitar player and a bass player and a singer. All of these processors in Xbox are totally independent. And that's very special and new in game console architecture. So the graphics processor in Xbox is really good at lighting. It's very good at surface definition. It's very good at things which are not traditional console graphics processor techniques. Is that bad? No, it's great, actually. A great example that I like to give is I'll ask people how many polygons they think the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park had, like the T-Rex model, say, the main close-up T-Rex model in Jurassic Park. The answer is 80,000, which is remarkably low. Well, why is that? Well, it's because to draw something which looks great, you don't add polygons. You add surface detail. You give artists control of what a scale looks like on a dinosaur, of how it glistens. And that's pixel shading. That's vertex shading. And that's what Xbox does. And that's totally unavailable on any other system. So when you see Shrek, you see Halo, you see how great they look, it's because the technology that we put in really enabled the control of the look of a scene to be given to the artists. You know, you want somebody sitting there making this beautiful model and just having Xbox just draw it. Sound is a great example of the general philosophy of everything we thought about on Xbox. Sound is the terrible, like, disfigured stepchild of the game industry. Sound always gets added last. It always gets no budget. It gets no memory. It gets no CPU. The lead programmer always hates the sound programmer. You know, it's this kind of joke in the game industry that you just slap the sound on at the very end, and it gets whatever happens to be left over when the rest of the game runs. And so we decided just to end that debate just outright by putting a really big, fat, powerful, crazy processor in there just for audio. So aside from the fact that there does need to be some memory allocated to audio for the music, there is absolutely no effect on the game for doing beautiful musical scores and highly complicated simulated audio and 3D audio and Dolby surround and all of these kinds of things are all handled by this audio processor totally autonomously. An artist can sit down in front of an Xbox and directly export a beautiful human figure out of 3D Studio Max or Softimage right into the Xbox, and it draws just as it looks. So that the artist is really now completely in charge of the process. By putting that power into the hands of the artists, you create an entirely different kind of game. You create an entirely different kind of game process. You change the game industry, and you put games on a footing that's more level with other traditional media. Most people don't realize that game developers are artists. Most people don't realize that they come from film and television and from rock bands and all these different places because they love this place where technology and art blend. And the reason that Xbox has such support among people who make games is because it's absolutely, without question, the finest platform to build games for that's ever existed. And the reason is it was designed by people who had been making games, who knew exactly what to do. If you look at Shrek, it's shocking. You know, you see things like, whoa, I didn't know that a game could look so much like the movie. You know, I really feel like I'm playing the movie. It's not just, oh, I recognize that character, he looks a little polygonal, but that's pretty good. It's that you turn on the television and there Shrek is. And it's a kind of a thrill. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Tony Hawk is actually a tremendous example of the Xbox difference in that it's a game that everybody knows and loves, and yet it's really taken to the next level on Xbox. You can see this grass is really grass. It's not some stupid looking texture. It's actually every single blade of grass.
And so the Xbox technology was designed to give that kind of power to the artist. That really is the fundamental dream of Xbox. But we're really focusing hardcore on building an online experience for Xbox around games, around stuff that you can only do in games that are connected, right? It gets really interesting. You can talk about community and you can talk about massively multiplayer games. You can imagine episodic games in which you get a new level every week. You can talk about downloadable stuff. You have to open your mind to every new idea you possibly can imagine. But at the same time, that imagination has to be tempered with what you know is true. And it's the same kind of imagination that has to go into online. And it's something which really only Microsoft has at this time. We want to really change the experiences you have when you play a game, but at the same time, There's nowhere else on earth where people have as much experience with the reality of broadband adoption, billing, infrastructure issues, like how to frame relays work, all of these different, like, terrifying minutiae that could kill these beautiful ideas dead are understood here. And so the reason I'm incredibly excited about online for Xbox is partially because of the promise of online, but people have been talking about that for a long time. My excitement stems from the fact that online is going to be real on Xbox. It really is going to happen. And that's incredible.